Hello everyone, Riskmonger here. Welcome back to the 2017 Divisional All Stars Tournament on MLB The Show 17, where the American League Round 2 action does not start with the traditional intro screen, where we usually see a promotional shot of two key players, but rather with this dramatic shot of the home team taking the field. This is the top-seeded AL Central, represented by the Central winning Cleveland Indians, both of which teams are led by starting pitcher Corey Kluber. Their opponents are the AL East Divisional All Stars, represented by the Red Sox and their leadoff batter Mookie Betts, who would work an 8-pitch at bat, but then go down on strikes. Here's the AL East lineup. If you'll recall, they swept the AL West in the very first video of this series. Later in the inning, they would get off to a good start against Kluber. The East's top scorer in terms of fantasy points, Aaron Judge, coming up with his real-life Yankees teammate Gary Sanchez on third, and he'll open the scoring with perhaps the least exciting type of RBI, a sacrifice fly. The East takes the 1-0 lead. That lead would be short-lived, however, as in the bottom of the first, Red Sox ace lefty Chris Sale facing his former White Sox teammate Jose Abreu, who rips an RBI single past the diving Justin Smoak at first base. And it's still the first inning, but we can already see the back-and-forth nature of this game. Fast forward to the top of the sixth, still 1-1, but the bases are loaded against Kluber, who's already over 100 pitches. He's facing Yankees shortstop Didi Gregorius, who lines an RBI single into the outfield. One run will come in. Lorenzo Cain out there in center field will fire to the plate. The throw is in time, but the East has regained the lead. The East would add to that lead next inning. Cleveland's lefty relief ace Andrew Miller trying to get out of another bases-loaded jam, facing Manny Machado, and he grounds one up the middle. One run will score. Two runs will score, despite Lorenzo Cain rolling around in center field after making that throw. It's now 4-1. Next inning, though, it's quickly 5-2. Justin Smoak drove in a run with a bases-loaded walk, and Brian Dozier got an RBI double, which would chase Sale from the game in favor of Yankees long reliever Chad Green. He would face Mr. Smile, Francisco Lindor, who gives his team plenty to smile about. A 2 RBI single, the Central's clawing back, and it's now 5-4. Green would then give way to Blue Jays setup man Ryan Tepera, who induces a ground ball up the middle from Edwin Encarnacion. Jonathan Schoop somehow makes that sliding catch and then beats the runner to the bag. That fielder's choice ties the game at 5. The tie would continue to the end of regulation. Lorenzo Cain is up against Dominic Leone, striking out to send the game to extra innings. I don't want to keep picking on Lorenzo Cain, but here he is this time in the 11th, striking out again against Matt Barnes to keep the score tied. In the top of the 12th now, after Machado and Justin Smoak get hits off lefty Scott Alexander, the Central brings in closer Cody Allen to try to preserve the tie. Didi Gregorius got another hit to load the bases for Sandy Leone, Boston's backup catcher, who came into the game in the 10th inning as, get this, the second baseman. It's like these computer managers lose their minds as soon as it goes into extra innings. But Leone breaks his bat, and Allen cuts off Jose Ramirez. There is no play, and the East takes the lead. The East would get one more run on an Andrew Benintendi sac fly, which would set up a save situation in the bottom of the 12th for Boston stopper Craig Kimbrell. Kimbrell didn't throw a perfect inning, allowing a base runner, but then he would shut the door, striking out Brian Dozier, then getting Lindor on a foul out. Manny Machado making a nice play in foul territory, completely heedless of the stool there. The game is over, 7-5, the final score after 12 innings. And the player of the game, Craig Kimbrell, the closer for both the Boston Red Sox and the Gemini Fantasy Astrology team. And after 12 innings, it's no surprise that the game gives this honor to the player who finally ends it. Here's the final line score. As usual, pause it to take a look at all the stats, because here's Game 2. And here's the regular intro screen, which I'll use to introduce you to tonight's starting pitchers, Luis Severino and Justin Verlander. And here's my homemade graphics introducing the teams in this series. And here are two key players for each team, both third basemen, Jose Ramirez of the Indians and Manny Machado, who's entering his last year under contract with the Orioles. And let's see how both of these players fared in their first at-bats, just so we can get a look at the starting pitchers at work. In the top of the first, Machado hitting a deep fly ball that will stay in the yard to end the inning. Then Ramirez, he comes up in the bottom of the first with a runner on, but he grounds out, also for the third out. In the bottom of the third, Justin Upton would come up with 2 runners on. He'll drive in the first run of the game with perhaps the second least interesting type of RBI, a ground out, and it's 1-0. But despite that blip, Severino was dealing, striking out Lorenzo Cain in the fourth. Hey, I wouldn't pick on the new Brewers outfielder if the East pitching wasn't doing it first. In the fifth, Machado's Orioles teammate Adam Jones hits a big RBI double, and this will tie it up at 1. The next batter, Red Sox leadoff man Mookie Betts, gets a hit. Jones trying to score from second, But the throw-in from Rosario is well in time for Salvador Perez to apply the tag, outfield assist, and we're still tied at 1. Going into the 9th, it's not a safe situation for the Central, so instead it's Tommy Canely coming in, another player who's not with the AL Central anymore. After a gregarious walk, yet another Oriole, Jonathan Scope, would put the East in front with a 2-run homer. It's 3-1. Which means for the second day in a row, Kimbrel comes in with a 2-run lead, although it's 3 innings earlier than his appearance last night. After Lorenzo Cain got on base, Eddie Rosario represents the tying run, but he will ground out a routine play to the second baseman Jonathan Scope, who had that go-ahead hit, which means he's not the player of the game? Yeah, the Leo center fielder Adam Jones did record the East's first RBI, and he also hit this bloop into right field that Upton would misplay for a triple, but that was after Scope put his team ahead with this big home run. Don't worry folks, I did a manual replay for this one, so the Libra second baseman can get the credit for his go-ahead hit, which helped give the East a 2-0 advantage, heading into Game 3, where they also have the home field advantage. The starters tonight, it's Chris Archer of the Rays and Carlos Carrasco of the Indians, and the key players, Machado and Ramirez again? At least this time they're against the backdrop of scenic Fenway Park in Boston. But back to the pitchers, both of them would start this game hot. Archer here K's Lindor for out number 2, and then next batter Upton goes down to end the inning. Then bottom 1, after a Betts double and a Sanchez walk, Carrasco would bear down, striking out Machado, and Judge back-to-back, and then Smoke to strike out the side with 2 runners on. In the third, back-to-back singles by Eddie Rosario and Salvador Perez brings up leadoff hitter Brian Dozier, who might not be with the Twins after this season, and he launches one over the green monster in left, a 3-run home run in the third to open the scoring. The next batter, Lindor, would draw a walk. He's on first for Jose Ramirez, who hits a high fly ball to right. Is it going to stay fair? It does. Doesn't look like it did, but the game knows best. It's a 2-run homer and a 5-0 Central advantage. The East would get on the board in the bottom of the inning on a solo homer by Libra Mookie Betts, but it would be the East's only run of the game. Spoiler alert. While the Central would continue to pile them on. In the 9th, Cain and Rosario got hits against long reliever Drew Pomerantz, who's actually the East's 5th starter. When Dozier again gets a big hit, it bounces into the stands for a ground rule double, but it'll still score 2. It's now 7-1. It would get up to 8-1 on a Justin Upton sac fly, a comfortable lead for long reliever Mike Minor, formerly of the Kansas City Royals, who will get Jonathan Scope to fly out for the final out. The player of the game is Virgo infielder Jose Ramirez, who did hit a 2-run homer, but it came right after Taurus infielder Brian Dozier hit a 3-run homer, and Dozier would pick up 2 more RBIs later. I don't know how the computer decides these things, but that's 2 consecutive player of the game choices that I don't agree with. But no matter, the important thing is that the Central gets their first win of the series. Game 4, the Central is now trailing by just 1 game. They'll send Jose Quintana to the hill against Blue Jays ace Marcus Stroman. The key players, here's Machado yet again, but at least we get someone different for the Central. Jose Quintana, who was traded from one Chicago team to the other before last year's trade deadline. These 2 key players would square off against each other in the first, Quintana pitching against Manny Machado with Mookie Betts on third. And the Cancer Astrology infielder lines a double to score the game's first run. Meanwhile, Stroman would hold down the slim lead, getting Frankie Lindor to ground into a 3-6, back to 3 double play in the third. Next inning, Andrew Benintendi, another member of the Cancer Fantasy Astrology team, extending the lead with another ground rule double to right. It's now 2-0. In the 6th now, Salvador Perez of the Royals, putting his team within 1 with a home run. But in the bottom of the inning, the East getting the run right back on a Jonathan Scope RBI single to left field. It's now 3-1. But the next inning, after a Jose Ramirez single, here's another Jose, Abreu, and here's a swing and a high fly ball heading towards the monster, and this one is out of the stadium. It's going to tie the game at 3 apiece. Heading into the 8th, new pitcher is Red Sox setup man Matt Barnes, not to be confused with Dodgers catcher Austin Barnes, or Brewers reliever Jacob Barnes, or Blue Jays reliever Danny Barnes. Anyway, this Barnes gives up a double to Dozier. Then 2 batters later, Justin Upton, who's now with the Angels. He hits one high and deep to right center, hooking towards that low bullpen wall. It is out of here, and the Central takes a 5-3 lead. Bottom of the inning, the Central brings in the guy who finished the game yesterday, Mike Minor, who will get a shot to return to starting in 2018 for his new team, the Texas Rangers. And Minor can't hang, giving up a line drive homer to Scope into the scaffolding above the monster, and it's now just a one-run lead. Here's some defense for you. In the ninth, Eddie Rosario lines a drive into left field, and it's natural right fielder Aaron Judge with a nice diving catch. In the bottom of the ninth, it's Indians closer Cody Allen on to face, no, not Adam Jones. It's backup outfielder Ezekiel Carrera pinch hitting for Game 2's player of the game. Curious managing to say the least. This is a guy who was just cut loose by the real-life Blue Jays. He'll draw the walk here. Then with Gary Sanchez at the plate, he would steal second to put the tying run into scoring position. But Allen the Scorpio settles in to strike out Sanchez, the Sagittarius. And the next batter, Machado, he grounds one to third, backhanded by Ramirez, who makes a strong throw to first, to end the game and tie the series up at 2. The player of the game, Justin Upton, which is a choice I agree with. The Virgo outfielder hit this big opposite field home run to give the Central the lead, which it would not relinquish. And given that this is his last appearance for the AL Central Divisional All-Star team, he's going out in style. Now to Game 5, the last before the series returns to Cleveland. Huber and Sale are again your starting pitchers, and Ramirez and Machado again in the promo shot. You know, there are other players on these teams. In the top of the first, yesterday's player of the game looks silly against Sale. And the same with Mookie Betts in the bottom of the inning. Both leadoff hitters go down by strikeout, and Aaron Judge too would go down via the K, followed directly by Justin Smoke, and Kluber strikes out the side Grover Cleveland style, that is, non-consecutively. At the top of the second, Jose Ramirez, the guy who's in the spotlight a lot in these pregame intro packages, he hits a fly ball to the opposite field. This one's heading for the corner, and that ball is gone. 1-0 lead in favor of the Central. In the bottom of the inning, back-to-back walks to Gregorius and Scope will bring up Andrew Benintendi. Runners would advance on a wild pitch, setting up this shot inside the bag at first. Diving stop by Abreu, and it's an RBI ground out to tie the game. The next batter, Adam Jones, he too grounds one to first on the other side of Abreu, but it gets through for a single, and the East takes a 2-1 lead. That would remain the score into the sixth. Runners on the corners for Jose Ramirez, and he skies one to center field. Adam Jones is under it, but Lindor easily tags and scores from third, and we've got a tie game again. But the East would regain the lead in the bottom of the inning. Irvin Santana on the mound now, again the fifth starter being used as a long reliever, with Benintendi on third for Mookie Betts, who grounds one to third. Ramirez makes a nice diving play for the out, but it does score the run, and it's 3-2. The seesaw would continue, Brian Dozier up, facing Ryan Tepera, with his real-life teammate Eddie Rosario on third. This time it's a single to tie the game back at 3. The same score as we head into extra innings yet again. Santana's still in there. He's thrown 63 pitches of long relief. Machado led off the inning with a walk to bring up Aaron Judge, and he hits a big fly ball into right field. This one does not bounce up over the wall, allowing Machado to score all the way from first. It's a walk-off double, and the East takes a 3-2 advantage in the series. And with Aaron Judge's game-winning hit, that means the player of the game is obviously Andrew Benintendi. Here he is getting a base hit off the top of the monster. He did go on to score a run from second base, and he did drive in a run earlier, but those were not the plays that added the most win probability. So here's a better look at the play that actually won the game. A manual replay of Aaron Judge hitting an opposite field walk-off double. And the East needs just one more win to clinch the series as we return to Cleveland for Game 6. Severino versus Verlander, the same matchup as Game 2. And Machado and Ramirez yet again? Can you believe it? And we've seen enough of them, so here's Verlander facing Betts in the first, striking him out. And in the bottom of the first, Severino striking out Brian Dozier. And we get to see the pitching motion of each starter. In the next inning, with a runner on second, Lorenzo Cain would hit a ground ball right up the middle under the diving glove of Jonathan Scope to score Jose Ramirez. Once again in the spotlight, he was on base with a double. And it looks like the other guy from the promo shot loves the spotlight too. Manny Machado would tie it up with a homer in the fourth. But he wasn't perfect, striking out here in the sixth against Verlander, the number 2 pitcher for the Pisces Fantasy Astrology team behind Clayton Kershaw. And this 1-1 tie would persist into the bottom of the ninth. And with the game tied, with the series in a save situation, so to speak, the East brings in closer Craig Kimbrell to try and keep things even. And he does just that, striking out Edwin Encarnacion. And we're headed for extra innings yet again. In the 10th, after a hit by Adam Jones, and now with one out, it's Miller time. Andrew Miller is not technically the closer, but he's probably better suited for this type of high-leverage work, striking out Machado for the second time in the game. In the bottom of the 10th, Kimbrell showing some grit in there for his second inning, striking out Salvi Perez on that heat. We go to the 11th, Miller also still out there. He'll face pinch hitter Ezekiel Carrera after a Didi Gregorius hit, so he's coming in for Jonathan Scope. And Carrera strikes out. Scope could have done that. But 2 innings was enough for Kimbrell, and it's his real-life teammate Matt Barnes coming in for the bottom of the 11th. After Lindor got on base with a single, Justin Upton, looking to play the hero again, hits one to the opposite field. It's going, and a walk-off 2-run homer. And Upton has won the game, but the player of the game is Jose Ramirez. He hit that double, then scored the team's first run, but he wasn't involved in the game-winning play. I would say maybe they didn't want to give Upton 2 player of the games in one series, but Ramirez got one already in Game 3. You know what? Let's just look at my own damn replay. Here's Justin Upton getting this walk-off hit. That's a player of the game pose right there. Not sauntering him to second after a raggedy double. And that play sends us to a Game 7. And the same starting pitchers as Game 3 because of math. Key players, it's Archer this time, and who else? Jose Ramirez. So he and Machado have each appeared in the same amount of these promo shots. Into game action, the East would open the scoring in the second inning. Pisces shortstop Didi Gregorius hits a deep fly ball to right center. Drifting back, Lorenzo Cain at the wall. He leaps and can't bring it back down. It's a solo shot. The next inning, after Andrew Benintendi got on base with a double, Adam Jones steps up and he hits one out. That one is pulled to perfection. Eddie Rosario just watches it sail over his head, hits the wall in frustration, and his team now trails 3-0. In the 6th, the East would add to that lead, courtesy of Justin Smoke, the breakout Sagittarius first baseman, who hits one out of here to center. There's another reaction from Lorenzo Cain, showing that competitive fire. And we head to the 8th inning. Chris Archer is still pitching, truly ace-like. That is until this hit from Salvador Perez. The Torres catcher wants it to stay fair, and it does. It's now 5-1. The East manager has seen enough. They're not leaving anything to chance in this Game 7. It's Yankees multi-inning weapon Chad Green. He would give up a hit to Scorpio shortstop Francisco Lindor to bring up Justin Upton. Another chance to be a hero, but he can't check his swing on a pitch in the dirt, and now Lindor tries to be the hero, going for the extra base, but he's cut down by Gary Sanchez. A strike him out, throw him out, double play. In the 9th inning now, we saw Craig Kimbrell in a non-save situation last night, but not tonight with the series on the line. Instead, it's Blue Jays setup man Ryan Tepera, and he lets the first batter reach base, but through no fault of his own. It's an errant throw by Didi Gregorius. Tepera would come back and get 2 outs, the second one on this strikeout of Edwin Encarnacion, but he wouldn't be trusted for out number 3. With the tying run still 3 batters away, it's Matt Barnes, who's summoned to face Lorenzo Cain. And can you believe it? Cain gets on base with a single. And only now do we see the pitcher that should have been in there for the whole inning. Craig Kimbrell is in there with 2 outs, only one task to get Eddie Rosario. And he does, striking him out on that fastball to seal the deal for the AL East. And the player of the game, this choice makes sense. Libra co-ace Chris Archer with a 7.77 on the stat line, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, and 7 base runners allowed. His masterful performance helped the East eliminate the AL Central in an epic 7-game series and carve out a spot against the NL East in the Divisional All Stars World Series coming up next time.